let's jump into it. So, the tree of life and the structure of the 10 Sefirot. Now, it's a huge kind of title, and that title requires that I deliver today, so hopefully I do. But really, what is the tree of life, right? There are so many misconceptions and rumors about this structure. Most of them are completely wrong. The tree of life is usually associated with that structure of the 10 Sefirot, which we're going to be looking at, drawing, breaking down, analyzing, dissecting today. Every single Sefira, we're going to dive into it, understand what it is, what it means, what its role in the entire system of the 10 Sefirot is, and hopefully that will provide you with the accurate information about this structure of the tree of life. This concept appeared in the Bible. Like I said, the symbol of tree of life you're probably very familiar with. It's all around the internet. You can find Wikipedia talking about the tree of life. There's even a tree of life game that some of you might know. All kinds of things, but today we're going to delve into the spiritual structure of the tree of life and the 10 Sefirot. So I hope you find this session useful, and let's jump right in. Hello everyone. My name is Gil Shir, for those of you who don't know me, and today we're going to be talking about the tree of life and the structure of the 10 Sefirot. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you, first of all, an introduction to the tree of life and the structure of the 10 Sefirot. We're going to talk a little bit about what this complete structure of 10 Sefirot actually is. Then we're going to break down different parts of this structure. And finally, we're going to delve into each and every single Sefira, 10 in total, and we're going to understand exactly what that Sefira is, what its role is in the entire structure of the 10 Sefirot. So, first of all, if you haven't yet said hi, then please do say hi and introduce yourself to everyone. It'll be great to see also where you're from. I'm sure we have students from all around the world. So I hope you find this session interesting, enjoyable, and useful for your spiritual development. Okay, so let's jump right into it. And here we go. Okay, so the tree of life and the structure of the 10 Sefirot. I'm sure many of you have already seen this structure here, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about it. But first of all, just to clarify, so what is this name, the Tree of Life? Actually, the Tree of Life is a name of a book written by the Ari. So Ari was a great Kabbalist who wrote this book. In Hebrew, it's called Etz Chaim, Etz, tree, Chaim, life, tree of life. The Ari lived in the 16th century. He was a revolutionary Kabbalist, a pioneer, because this book of his, this book called The Tree of Life, it was the first time that he took the spiritual worlds, its structure, and created it in a clear, defined, structured manual. So it's the first time that he took this and suited it for the masses. He wasn't the first to write about it. Actually, many wrote about it before him, from Adam, who wrote the book Raziel the Angel, Abraham, the book of creation. The Bible speaks about the 10 Sefirot, although it speaks about it in code, so you might not find it there explicitly, but it talks about this structure all the time, and so does the Talmud, so does the book of Zohar. Actually, any authentic Kabbalistic texts really is talking about this structure of 10 Sefirot. Basically, it's the laws of all of creation broken down into a clear scientific system. So when you say Tree of Life, you probably mean this structure, this 10 Sefirot, but in fact, Tree of Life is the name of the book. In that book, the Ari breaks down this entire structure from top all the way down to the bottom and back up again. Okay, so this is just to kind of frame that name, the Tree of Life. So, as you probably understood already, the Tree of Life is another reference that people usually use to refer to these 10 Sefirot. So let's first of all ask, what are Sefirot, right? So what's each and every one of these things here? They're called a Sefira. Sefira comes from the Hebrew word sapphire, which basically means illumination. And it's not talking about physical matter. And actually, let me tell you this, none of what we're going to be talking about today talks about physical matter. Although you've probably seen all kinds of stuff on the internet, on YouTube, where people associate Sefirot to different parts of the body and to colors and to emotions. There's a reason why this misconception exists, because Sefirot do have relations in terms of their naming to parts of bodies, like Rosh, which means the head, Toch, Guf, which means body, Sof, which means the end of the body, but it doesn't speak a single word about this physical body whatsoever. It also has associations. Every Sefira is associated with a color as well, but of course these colors and everything we're going to be talking about today talks about internal qualities. So the colors, which are white, green, red, blue, etc., they're not relating to colors of our world. So, you don't have to take something pink and say, okay, this resembles the third part of Gevura. No, you don't do that actually. Don't connect anything from this world to what we're going to be talking about today. The only connecting point is your intention. Okay, so what is a Sefira? So we said Sefira comes from the word sapir, illuminates. Sefira also in Hebrew means lispor, to count. So it's a counting of this structure. Now, what's so special about this structure is that it's the building block of everything in reality, of the substance of matter itself. It's, I don't know, like in string theory, where string theory says more or less that if you break down further, from the elementary particles, there's atoms and then electrons, protons, neutrons, and then you can break down even further into all kinds of bosons and whatever. And then there's a theory that if you go down even further, then there's strings that, according to how they resonate, they turn into different forms of matter. So, according to Kabbalists, what they discovered is that everything in reality, what we can perceive and what we can't perceive, the spiritual worlds too, they all come from a structure of 10 Sefirot. So it's the building blocks of everything, of matter, of thoughts, of intentions, everything that comes from the spiritual worlds, which is everything in our world. So understanding this structure gives an understanding of all of nature, actually. And you could say that, like I said, it's a fractal. So this image represents a fractal which has self-similarity. And the reason why I'm showing this is because the 10 Sefirot work in the same way. So if you zoom in, and we're going to see that soon, it's pretty cool. If you zoom into the 10 Sefirot, say you zoom into a certain part of it, you'll find in it the same structure of 10 Sefirot. And if you zoom in again, you'll find in again the same structure. Just like when I'm zooming in here, you're seeing the same structure appear again and again. This is all around nature, by the way. If you look at a leaf, you zoom into it. So this part of this leaf here is the same structure as the whole leaf. And if you zoom into just one part of that, that has the same structure again of the whole leaf. There are tons of examples of it in nature, beautiful examples too, like broccoli. So broccoli also goes according to the same form. If you zoom into one of these things, you'll find the same structure. And if you zoom into one of those, you'll again find the same structure, and so on. So why am I showing you pictures of broccoli and leaves? Because the 10 Sefirot, at their core, that's what they are. They're self-similar fractals that are rooted into everything in existence. So understanding this structure is understanding everything, all of reality. All right, so let's jump into the structure of the 10 Sefirot. Now is where my work begins. I'm going to open the drawing board and we're going to start working. So you're going to be focused. I'm going to cover quite a lot in not much time. If you have questions, write them in the chat. I'll either get to them during the session, or I promise I will answer every single question you have that's in the chat. I will answer it. If I don't get to it in the session, I will answer it after the session. So if you have a question, just write it in. Okay, so let's start off with a general introduction to the complete structure of the Tree of Life. All right, the 10 Sefirot. Let's have a look at a general kind of intro. So, okay. This is a bit nicer without any noise. All right. So here we have the 10 Sefirot. Okay. So what can we tell you about the 10 Sefirot? The 10 Sefirot, you can divide them up into a few parts. Let's do that. So the first part, okay. The first part is called Gar, which is these three. Gar in Hebrew means Gimel Rishonot, the upper three. So these are the upper three. And obviously, they're called that because they are the upper three. These three Sefirot, they don't directly relate to the created beings, to us. So they're more theoretical for us to understand. They do have potential in them. So these are the Gar, the upper three. I'm going to explain every single Sefirah, don't worry, just to give you a quick introduction. Now, the remaining Sefirot, Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet, these are called also, where is it? Here it is. So this is called Zayin Tachtonot, this whole structure, which you guessed it, Zat means the lower 7. So that's the lower 7. Now, in order to understand this structure, I first want to give you an explanation about something that's called 4 phases of direct light. So I hope you bear with me because there's all kinds of numbers here. There's upper 3, lower 7. Now I'm talking about 4 phases. But in fact, all of these things are connected and you'll soon understand why. So it's seemingly I'm going in a different direction now, but you'll see how it all connects. So the 4 phases of direct light actually give a breakdown of how reality was created. How the only thing that exists in reality, which is in fact a desire, everything is a desire, the still, the vegetative, the animate, and the speaking, all are different forms of desire. You could say, wait a minute, but a rock has no desire. Well, in fact it does, but it has a desire of the still level, which is to stay at complete rest, right? That's Newton's first law of motion, right? That the still will stay at complete rest unless an external force interacts with it. So everything in creation is a desire, and the 4 phases of direct light explain how the desire was created. And in a moment you'll understand how that relates to the 10 Sefirot, so bear with me. Okay, so the first part of the 4 phases of direct light is actually a 5th part. I told you it's going to get a bit confusing, just bear with me. So it's called 0, phase 0, and that's the root. The root is the Keter, it's the light, it's the thought of creation, it's the crown, it's the quality of the creator, it's everything and everyone, and its aim is to bring everything to complete fulfillment, to correction, however you want to call it. And this is phase 0, it's called. Phase 1 is the formation of the Kli, and this phase is called Hochma. Now in phase 1, the beginning of the will to receive, of the desire, is starting to be created. So in phase 1, the light and the vessel are in complete fulfillment. The vessel is fulfilled to the fullest extent. You could say it's like an embryo in the womb. This is phase 1. It's also called Hochma. So Keter is the first Sefira, Hochma is the second Sefira. Up until now, easy peasy. The second phase is called Bina. Now Bina, it comes to life after the first phase, where the Kli receives the light. The Kli says, wait a minute. There is this force here that's giving, and that is incredible. Receiving is it fulfills, but it's not as great as being the giver. So you know what? I'm going to give. And that's the second phase. That's Bina. But then something interesting happens. Bina realizes it has nothing to give. It's entirely a vessel of reception. What can a quality of reception give? It can't give anything. So Bina is the third Sefira, Keter, Hochma, Bina. So still pretty clear, and here is where it starts getting a little bit confusing. So the third phase of the 4 phases of direct light, which is actually the 4th phase because it starts from 0, but never mind. So the 3rd phase is called Zeir Anpin. Now Zeir Anpin is Aramaic. Zeir means small and Anpin means face. So it literally means a small face. And soon you'll understand why. Now Zeir Anpin says, all right, I want to give. I want to be like the Creator, but I have nothing to give. So what can I do? So let's say you go to your mom's house and she cooked you this amazing dinner, but you're not hungry, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, I'm not even hungry. What can I do? But you see how she invested and worked on creating that meal for you, on cooking and buying the ingredients and this and this and that. You say, all right, fine. So, I'll put on a smiley face and I'll just eat the food and I'll show her how much I'm enjoying it. So that's an example of the 3rd phase. The 3rd phase realized it has nothing to give. So all it can do is receive with the intention to give. Just like you going to your mom's house and her cooking dinner and you eating it because your intention in every bite isn't to enjoy the meal. It's to give pleasure to your mother. So by receiving, by eating, you're in fact giving. And this is the 3rd phase. Now here it gets a bit tricky because we lost the count of the Sefirot. Keter, Hochma, Bina. Right? But then after that, like we saw here, Keter, Hochma, Bina, and then comes Hesed, and then Gevura, and Tiferet, and Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. So what's going on here? Why is this called Zeir Anpin? We'll get to that in a moment. And the 4th and final phase is the Malchut, when the 3rd phase realizes that it can not only receive in order to give, but it can also attain the level of the giver. That's why this arrow here is kind of bold black, because it's double reception in potential. It's receiving the light, but it's also receiving the status of the giver. And by that is the completion of the creation of the will to receive, of everything that exists. All of nature, all of the universe, everything. So here, Malchut, this is clear. Again, Malchut is the last Sefira. It's the 10th Sefira, right? So that means that Zeir Anpin must include inside of it some more Sefirot. So that's exactly what it does. So again, Keter is 0, Hochma is phase 1, Bina is phase 2, and Zeir Anpin, which means, like I said, a small face, that is actually everything, right? Let's go back here. Okay. That's actually Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. So Zeir Anpin actually includes 6 Sefirot inside of it. And then the 4th phase is Malchut. Okay, now this is where it gets even cooler and more, I'd say, trippy. We did a session about mushrooms a few weeks ago, but I can tell you going into the structure of the 10 Sefirot is a lot more trippy than taking any kind of drug. It's the drug of life, the potion of life. So hopefully you feel a bit of this potion of life. So what goes on next? So let's zoom in for a sec to the 6 Sefirot of Zeir Anpin. So 6 Sefirot of Zeir Anpin are these 6 Sefirot of Zeir Anpin. So the 6 Sefirot of Zeir Anpin, these Sefirot, which are Zeir Anpin, they're built like this: Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, right? Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. But in fact, remember when I started off with saying everything is like a fractal and it's self-similar, and every time you zoom in you find the same structure again? Well, voila. Hesed resembles Keter, Gevura resembles Hochma, Tiferet resembles Bina. Maybe I have some pointer here that I can point out what I'm doing. Oops, that's not the pointer. Okay, over here, yes. I don't see a pointer, maybe here. Oh, here we go. All right, cool. Oh, I love this pointer. It's all kind of energetic. Okay, so Gevura resembles Hochma. So Gevura is here. It resembles Hochma in the main structure, Tiferet, Bina. And Netzach, again, Zeir Anpin. So Netzach includes 6 Sefirot in it, and Hod, Malchut, and Yesod. So what's going on here? So we can start seeing this fractal, self-similar behavior of the Sefirot, right? So these Zeir Anpin, you could say, includes the entire structure of the 10 Sefirot in it, right? Because we said that each one of these things here are in fact a small structure of the entire 10 Sefirot. That's why it's called a small face, because it's small, meaning, we'll get a bit later on what it means, smallness, but it is still a complete partzuf, spiritual partzuf, a spiritual face, which means it includes the entire 10 Sefirot. So Netzach has all of Zeir Anpin in it, another 6 Sefirot. So then it goes like this. The Zeir Anpin is actually the entire structure of 10 Sefirot, but in there you also have Zeir Anpin, which is again the structure of the 10 Sefirot, and again you have Zeir Anpin, which is again the structure of the 10 Sefirot, and this keeps going and going and going for infinity. It never ends, right? So this is the self-similarity of nature. And again, that's why understanding the 10 Sefirot is understanding everything in reality, whether you understand that or not. Okay, so now that we have kind of a picture of the self-similarity of nature, and we have an understanding of more or less the 10 Sefirot and Zeir Anpin, let's keep delving in a little bit more towards each Sefira. Okay, so like I said, the first 3 Sefirot are called Gar, they're the upper 3, and the remaining ones are called Zat, they're the lower 3. The practical Sefirot to understand are the lower 7, which we'll break down. We'll also break down the upper 3, but the upper 3 are more, they're called the fathers, you could say. They're the root of this entire structure of 10 Sefirot. And even though every quality here is different, these 3 Sefirot, or you could say, are attained by correctly working with Zat, with the lower 7 ones. So the upper light, it works in Keter, it works in Hochma, it works in Bina, and from there it penetrates the lower 7 Sefirot, which resemble the will to receive. What else can I tell you about all of these Sefirot? Maybe let's start going. You know what? Let me check if we have any questions here. If we do, then maybe we'll take a few questions, and if not, then we'll start diving into each and every single Sefira. So let me just grab open the questions document, which I have here, which is collecting your questions from wherever you're writing them, by the way. Okay. Let's see. Okay, is this an endless process? Jensen is asking. It's not an endless process. It's an endless structure. The process is not endless. The process has an end, and the end is called final correction. Why we call Zeir Anpin small faces? So I think I explained that, because it resembles the entire structure itself. Why it's called small? We'll get to that in a few moments. What does klipot mean? That's a good question that we're not going to cover today. Okay, let's keep writing your questions. I see them kind of adding up here, so keep writing them in. Let's move on to the next, and I think what you've all been waiting for, which is to start diving in to what every single Sefira actually is. Okay, so let's do it. Let's start off with Keter. So first of all, where is Keter? You know what? Let me just... oh wait, you don't see the drawing board, do you? One moment. Okay. All right, so now you see the drawing board. So these are the Gar, the upper 3. These are the Zat. Another way of breaking it down, by the way, just before we move forward. So this is Kachab, which means Keter, Hochma, Bina. These 3 are also treated as something separate. Chagat. These 3 are also treated as something separate. They're referred to as Nehi. Just an abbreviation of the 10 Sefirot, and this is Malchut. So Keter, Hochma, Bina, Kachab, Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet, in short Chagat, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, in short Nehi, and Malchut. And we'll soon see why they're broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts actually. So well, I guess you already know 4 phases of direct light, but let's still take a jump into it. So let's start off with Keter. Okay, so this is a focus right now. Let's maybe mark it up a little bit. Now we're talking about Keter. All right, so what is Keter? First of all, Keter means a crown, right? That's what it literally means. It resembles this Sefira. It resembles the quality of the Creator. It resembles the thought of creation. The Keter is the highest possible state. It includes everything, everywhere. It is in every single other Sefira. It aims to pull everything towards the purpose of creation, towards the thought of creation. Just like in the 4 phases, right? When I explained the root, that was the first arrow by itself. It's simply the thought of creation. And it does aim to raise everything towards that. And sometimes raising everything towards that means taking through a process of first lowering, which there was a question about klipot. So klipot is actually, it literally means a shell or a peel. And the reason why klipot, it's usually associated with something negative, with something bad. But in fact, klipot, even though they're the posterior part of the light, meaning they're darkness, they still are a fundamental part of the development of this entire structure. So the Keter, if needs, it brings the down to the klipot as well. But just like the word klipa, a peel, what does it do to the fruit? It protects it. Without the peel, the fruit will not be able to develop. But that was just a side note. Let's go back and talk about Keter. So it's the crown, it's the thought of everything. And it's connected in this first structure of these 3 guys. So Keter, Hochma, and Bina. So to understand the purpose of every single Sefira, let's go over them one by one. All right. So Keter, more or less we covered. I'm not going to go too much in detail about these top 3. The reason is like I said before, they are from top down, meaning the purpose of working with these 7 Sefirot, you could say, is in order to attain the top 3. So that's why they're not so practical for us to work with, but I'll still give kind of an overview so you know more or less where we are at. So the next Sefira is the Sefira of Hochma. Now, Hochma, what it literally means, maybe I'll write down here what crown is as well, just so we have kind of clarification. So Keter, so we said it's the quality of the Creator. The Creator, by the way, isn't some God we learn about in religion. It's simply the general force of nature, right? So it's the quality of the Creator. It's the thought of creation. It's everything, it's everywhere, and it aims to raise everything to it, to reach its complete state of connection with a created being, with a correction. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Hochma. So Hochma, so this is Keter, and now let's talk about Hochma. Do it in green. Hochma. So Hochma literally means wisdom. That's what it literally means. I'm telling you the English translation for the words, just so you get a little bit of kind of a grasp. Although it's a mistake to imagine Keter as a crown. No, like I said, there isn't a single word here that relates to our world. So I'm just giving you the translation so you get a little bit of kind of a grasp, because also in Hebrew, Keter means a crown, and people can misassociate it. So I'm not putting any obstacles to you in English that Hebrew speakers don't have as well. So just so you know, it doesn't refer to anything physical of our world. So Hochma literally means wisdom, and what it is, if the Keter, you could say, is the plan, so Hochma is the purpose of creation. So what does it mean that it's the purpose of creation? It means that it includes in it the light that is destined to fulfill everything and everyone. It can't do that immediately. It can only do it after the correction of Bina. So Hochma requires correction of Bina. All right, so that's Keter, that's Hochma. Let's go now to Bina. Do it maybe in blue. Okay, so Bina. Bina literally means, well, it has a few interpretations. It means understanding, it means comprehension, it means intelligence. I won't write it here because there are too many words here, but you get it. So if Keter is the plan of creation and Hochma is the purpose of creation, Bina is the correction of creation. So as you can see, this Gar, these Gimel Lishonot, these upper three, they include in them everything, the plan, the purpose, and the correction. But they include everything in its potential. And the lower seven, the Zat, if this is Gar, then we said these are Zat, they include the actual implementation. So Bina, wow, time is moving so fast. Okay, we're going to make all of it. So this is the correction here. You can see it, the correction. So that's Bina. All right. Maybe I'll do service to you guys. You can see what I'm writing, and I'll write it here. So Bina, we said, is the correction. Okay. So what does it mean? What's the quality of Bina? Like we said, it's the light. So if this is the light of wisdom, you could say, that's the purpose, to receive the light in its fullest, with all of its wisdom, with all of its potential. So Bina is the light of correction. It also is referred to the light of Chasadim. Chasadim, similar to Hesed, you'll soon understand why Bina is also the light of Chasadim. It's pure bestowal. As you remember from the first illustration, which was this one. Where was it? Here. For some reason it's last. Let's see if we can move it. Oh, great. Okay, so where is it? I wanted to show you the four phases. Where are the four phases? Here they are. So as you remember from the four phases, where are they? Here they are. So Kli is Hochma, light is Keter, meaning everything, the thought, the Kli. The Hochma is the purpose, and Bina is the correction. So Bina, the correction is it wants to give. That's the correction. It's not yet the implementation of correction, it's the idea of correction. Okay, so let's go back to the drawing board, and we are over here. All right, so that's Keter, Hochma, and Bina. Bina, like I said, pure bestowal. Now, Bina, we said, is the second phase, right? So it's the phase that wants to give. Oh, you can't see it. Move it a little bit to the left. I'm out of space here. Okay, I'll just do it here, and hopefully you can see. So we said this is Keter. Do it in English. Keter, Hochma, and Bina. So Bina wants to give, and the end of Bina, with its desire to be like the Keter, what it does, it begets, it gives birth to Zeir Anpin. Zeir Anpin, we said, is a small face. It's these 6 Sefirot. So this is Zeir Anpin. Okay, so the board is already getting full. I told you it's going to be kind of a full-on session, so I hope you're still with me. By the way, if you're enjoying the session so far, click the like button, maybe even the share button. That way more people can join us. Okay, so that was Keter, Hochma, and Bina. 3 down, 7 to go. Let's see if we have any kind of questions that are urgent. Where are the questions? They are here. Wow, okay. So I see that there are already a lot of questions accumulating. Okay. Okay, I see a lot of them are asking about future Sefirot that we're going to talk about, like Malchut, 7 levels. Okay, we're going to talk about 7 as well, actually right now. Okay, I think most of these questions will be covered if we just keep going. So let's do that. Let's keep going. Okay, where are we? All right. So we're over here, and we covered the first 3, and now we're going to move over to the next. So if we said that these top 3, it's actually without, sorry, it is with Ensof, with Keter. Okay, so these are the Gar, like we said, and now we're moving on to the lower 7 Sefirot, which are the Zat. Zat, which literally means lower 7. Zain, 7, Tachtonot, lower. Now, like I said, the first 3 are not very practical for our work because that's what needs to be attained. It's the outcome. And that's why Bina, when it realized that it has nothing to give, it wanted to give, but it has nothing to give, that's when it realized that it needs to receive in order to give. And this mechanism of receiving in order to give is not 1 Sefirah or 2 Sefirot, it is 6 Sefirot, which together build this structure of receiving in order to give. So, by the way, the 7 Sefirot, 7 is also a number in nature, like 7 natural musical notes, 7 colors of the rainbow, etc. Because through these 7 combinations, you can find infinite forms of connections and bestowal and interactions between the receiver and the giver. That was just a side note. Okay, let's move on to the next Sefirah, Hesed. So Hesed is the first Sefirah of the next 3 that we're going to talk about. We'll do it like this. So all of these are 7, but let's talk about it now, not from top 3 and bottom 7. Let's talk about it from Kachab, which is Keter, Hochma, Bina, and now we're doing Chagat, Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet. So Hesed, this is the Sefirah Hesed that we're talking about, and let's do it up here. So Hesed, or you can write it Chesed, or with a C, doesn't matter. Chet is sometimes CH or sometimes H, Chesed. And I'm going to add here, it's the quality of Abraham. So I'll write that even here. This Chesed resembles Abraham. Okay, now from this quality of Chesed, of Abraham, you could say, so if I say the quality of Abraham, I'm referring to the quality of Chesed. From this quality of Chesed, the spiritual device, this is the beginning of the spiritual device, of this Kli that we need to build in order to attain the thought of creation. All right? So you could say it is the start of the, I want to say Kli, but I can also say soul, because that's what it is. It's the beginning of construction of a soul. That's what a Kli is. So if I say Kli or if I say soul, it's the same thing. You might think or say, yeah, everyone has a soul. No, that is incorrect. Kabbalists have found that everyone has a potential for a soul, but not a soul. They only have the potential for it, a point, a spark. And developing that soul is developing the structure of the 10 Sefirot. Who can do it? Anyone. What do you need? A desire. That's it. So Chesed, it's the start of that Kli, or that soul. Its literal translation of Chesed, it means grace. It also means kindness. It also means charity. There are quite a few words. Goodness, benevolence, You get the idea, more or less, of what it resembles. I'm just adding the words in English so you get a bit of a feeling, but don't try and associate it with emotions that you're familiar with from our world. Okay? So imagine like the quality of Hesed. It means that you're willing to be there for everyone else. You're there for them, you're supporting them, you're giving, you're not calculating like we many cases do. You know, should I give? How much should I give? What will I get in return? All these calculations. Chesed is no calculations. It's just pure giving, pure bestowal. That's the quality of Chesed. But it's not only that, it's also a requirement for the light of Hochma. So the light of Hochma, it cannot shine without Chasadim. Hochma, which is part of Kachab, as you recall, the purpose of creation, that's what we call Hochma. The purpose of creation cannot be achieved without Chesed, without this grace, kindness, charity, goodness, benevolence, etc. Now, when Chokhmah is clothed in Chesed, this is the first revelation of this force, this overall force. Now, what else can I tell you about this? Okay, something interesting. It's also called Rachav, which literally means wide. And the reason why it's called wide, because it's like open up completely, wide-hearted, widely giving, and it's also the beginning of any correction, any interaction with spirituality. It has to start with the quality of Chesed, right? It's also known as bestowing in order to bestow. I'll move that a bit to the left so we have more room here. Bestow in order to bestow. Now, is bestowing in order to bestow, is that a good thing? You could say yes and no. It's a good thing, but it misses the point of creation. The point of creation is to receive, it's not to bestow, right? That's the purpose, that's the thought of creation. The thought of creation is to fulfill the created beings with all of the light that exists. Ultimate fulfillment, infinite pleasure. That is the purpose of creation, and don't listen to anyone else that tells you otherwise. The purpose of creation is to enjoy to the fullest. That's, by the way, the wisdom of Kabbalah. I'll tell you a secret. Kabbalah is a Hebrew word for reception. It's the wisdom of how to receive. So understanding the structure of a 10 Sefirot is an understanding of how to use your desire correctly to be able to receive infinite fulfillment and potential. All right, so this is bestow in order to bestow. Excuse me. Is it a good thing? Yes, it's a good thing, but it's not yet the purpose of creation. It's the foundation of bestowal, you can say. And as a result of that, it's born from Bina, right? That's the next Sefira after Bina. It's also the quality of the Creator. The general quality of the Creator is the quality of Chesed, just ultimate giving, no calculation, just fully on, just to give. So it's the quality of the Creator. So that is the quality of Chesed. Now let's move on to the quality of Gevura. So we'll do that the next page. Okay, so Chesed, we said, is Abraham, which also resembles, by the way, the right line. So we're still here, we're still in Chagat, and now we're focusing on Gevura. So if Chesed, we said, was Abraham, and it resembles the right line. If you don't know what the right line is, don't worry about it. So we said this is Abraham. So Gevura resembles the left line, and that is Isaac, Yitzchak. Okay, so that is the quality of Gevura. Let's take a look at it. Gevura, it literally means, by the way, it means courage. It means heroism, to be a hero. It means might. In Hebrew, the word Gevura comes from the word Gibor, which is a hero, basically. It also comes from the word lehidgaber, which is to overcome. So that means that there is something to overcome here, right? So this is Gevura. Now, the reason why it's called to overcome, and I'll write this here not only as a translation but also as a quality, is because here it is already a revealed will to receive. A revealed will or desire to receive. Right? And that means that there is already work to overcome it. So the Gevura, or Isaac, or left, it comes from Hesed. It's a result of it, of course. Keter, Hochma, Bina, Hesed, Gevura. So Gevura, this overcoming, this heroism, this courage, it's a result of Hesed. It's born from Hesed, and it gets its livelihood from Hesed. So it doesn't have livelihood in and of itself. Its livelihood is from Hesed. Write this down. From Hesed. I apologize for my messy writing. We have still a lot of Sefirot to cover and not much time, so I'm going to try and do it quickly. So it continues the work of Hesed, but it adds on to it its additional forces. What are its additional forces? These are forces of Isaac, of Yitzchak, which are forces of overcoming. Right? So if Hesed was the quality of the Creator, then Gevura is the quality of, shout it out, the created being. So hopefully you got it correct. And these two Sefirot, they work great together, but they're still lacking something. And what they're lacking is the next Sefira, the Sefira of Tiferet. So the Sefira of Tiferet is the final Sefira of these parts, which we can also, I don't want to add too much info, so I'm kind of holding myself back, but you could say this is the Rosh of the Partzuf, which is the head of the Partzuf, not a physical head, of course, it's the head of the Partzuf, of the spiritual structure. And this is the Guf of the Partzuf, and the body, that is, of the Partzuf. But within the body, this is, remember fractals, self-similarity, this is the Rosh of Guf. This is the head of the body. So it has qualities of a head, meaning if it has qualities of a head, it already has a complete calculation in it of bestowal, reception, and Tiferet, which is the outcome of all of that. And let's move on to Tiferet. Okay, so we're here again, and now we're talking about the Sefira of Tiferet. So, Tiferet, or Tiferet, actually let me just write down the literal meaning. So it literally means glory, or beauty, splendor, magnificence, highness. Tiferet means all these things. And why is it so glorious and beautiful and splendorous? That's what we'll explain in a second. So if Hesed was Abraham, Gevura was Isaac, so guess who Tiferet is? You got it. Jacob. Yaakov. Abraham is a right line. Isaac is a left line. And Yaakov is, you guessed it, the middle line. So the quality of Yaakov is considered one of the most important qualities. And why is that? It is because it's also called, by the way, the senior of the fathers, even though it's the youngest, seemingly, in the hierarchy, meaning Abraham, then Isaac, his son, then Jacob, his son. Still, Yaakov is called the senior of the fathers. Why is he called the senior of the fathers? Because it holds in it these qualities, glory, beauty, splendor. They are the qualities of the Creator. So its qualities of Tiferet are the qualities of the Creator. So that's why magnificence, highness, beauty, all of these things here, they resemble the quality of Tiferet. Now what Tiferet does, it is the stabilizing force of Hesed, the right line, which is entirely giving and absolute bestowal, and Gevura, which already has a revelation of the will to receive in it, and it already has a sense of overcoming, of this heroism of overcoming the desire. But only these two things can connect in the quality of Tiferet. So it's a balancing quality. That's right, balance. Okay? It balances Chesed and Gevura together. It's the connector of these two forces. And it's not only that, it's also the practical aspect of the spiritual work, of working with the right line, which is the greatness and importance of this entire structure of bestowal, and the left line, which is the awakening of the desire to receive, of the ego, of the ability to overcome. It's not a negative thing, by the way, this overcoming this ego. It's not negative. It's part of the way to reach the Keter, through this process of overcoming, of working with the two lines together to form the third line, etc. So what this quality does, it doesn't cancel the right and left line. No. On the contrary, it amplifies them. It amplifies Chesed and Gevura. It amplifies the right line, the force of bestowal, of giving, and the left line, the force of reception. It amplifies them because through amplifying them, it can increase their potential to receive light. And it's not just the middle line, but it's the beginning of the entire process called the middle line, which comes to completion through Yesod and later on through Malchut. Now there's a question here that you might be asking, and that question is, so why doesn't it end here? I mean, it seems like we have a complete picture here. We have the right line, bestowal, the left line, reception, Tiferet, the middle line. It completes everything. So the answer is, yes, it includes in it a complete structure, but it's not complete yet. It's not entirely complete. Because what leads to the attainment of Keter is the unfolding of the next Sefirot, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, which you could say, remember, of self-similarity, fractals. So this, inside of it, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, they do hold a complete structure of the 10 Sefirot within them, but there is still more to evolve in order to receive the entire fulfillment from Keter. Okay, so what else can I tell you about Tiferet? Okay, that's it for Tiferet. I see we have seemingly 3 minutes left, but I can maybe we can extend the session a little bit. What do you guys think? How about we extend it? Oh, I see we have a lot of people kind of spamming the chat. That's good. That's good. It's perfect for this session, actually. You know, there's all the different forces working here. Let's extend it. Okay, let's extend it. Hopefully not too long. So that way we can cover all of the Sefirot. So we only have 4 left. So let's do it. Let's extend it and cover all of the Sefirot like promised. So the next Sefira, now we've finished with these 3. We finished with these 3, and now we're moving on to Netzach, Hod, Yesod. So as you can understand, I'm not just marking them as 3s, but they each have a complete structure within them, every one of these 3s. So KabU has a complete structure. Keter, Hochma, Bina. Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet also hold a complete structure. Netzach, Hod, Yesod also hold a complete structure. They're called Nehi, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. And where are we now? We're on Netzach. So let's do Netzach. Okay, Netzach. Netzach. Let's not forget the naming. So we had Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Who do we have next? Who knows? Who knows who Netzach is? Moses. So Netzach is Moses. All right. So it's the quality of Moses. What it literally means, Netzach, it means a few things. It means eternity. It means immortality. It means splendor. It also means to be triumphant and to overcome, Netzach, like to win, you could say. Okay, so that's the literal meaning. Again, don't pay too much attention to the literal translation because it's translating a spiritual quality into words that you can grasp in this world, but this is not talking about the words of this world at all. So we said Netzach is the quality of Moses. Now, what Netzach does, Netzach stabilizes the entire structure of Chagat, of Hesed, Gevura, and Tiferet. Because what Moses is, and Moses comes from the word Moshe, limshoch, to pull, and his name is Moshe, not because he was pulled from the Nile, but because this quality of Moses is responsible for pulling all of the Sefirot below, connecting it to the Sefirot above. That's the role of Netzach. So it's a connector, you could say, between the Chagat, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet. I'll write like this maybe. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet. It's a connector between Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet and Hod, Yesod, Malchut. So it stabilizes all of the Chagat, and it enables to continue it to Nehim. What else can I tell you? What the quality of Moses represents? It represents work in faith above reason. Now, if you're in KabU and you have experience with Kabbalah, then you maybe understand this concept. If not, basically it means rising above the ego, you could say, in a way. That's the quality of Moses. Now, it wants the upper force to fulfill the created being. That's what it wants. And it does that by enabling the upper forces, Chagat, to connect to the lower forces, Nehim. That's the entire work of the Sefira. It's like a connecting Sefira. That's why, by the way, because it connects the forces of reception and the forces of bestowal, it connects everything from above to everything from below. That's why the Pentateuch, the Torah, is called Torah Moshe, the Torah of Moses, because that, you could say, includes in it the entire method of connecting between the upper force and the created being and the lower one. And that's the purpose of this quality, to attain it with faith above my reason. And you could say this quality, if you look at Moses and the person that he's written about in the Bible, he was kind of unconfident and he didn't know how to approach and talk, and he was kind of scared. What this resembles is the scrutiny and the difficulty in rising above the reason. He was basically, this is what it is. It's a quality of faith which is above reason. So all of my reasoning, all of my understanding, everything, and then I have to suddenly go in faith above it. What it does is, the reason why it's called, I said before, Torah Moshe, the method of Moses, the entire Torah of Moses, is because it captures in it the essence of the work. And what is this essence? It's to lower the will to receive, to lower to the will to receive the qualities of bestowal. Without it, without Netzach, the will to receive cannot connect to the upper one. So the will to receive is under the influence of the upper one without Netzach, but it's only a one-way direction. And what Netzach does, it opens, you could say, a channel, not just from top down, but also to enable the created beings to rise, to connect to the upper force from bottom up. So that's the force of Moses. It's also the importance of bestowal above reception. So let's just write importance of bestowal. Okay, so that's what the Sefira of Netzach is. Let's move on to the next Sefira, which is actually quite an interesting one. It's like a hidden Sefira, you could say. And why is it hidden? We're talking right now about Hod. So we're here, Hod. So Hod is Aaron. So Netzach was Moses, and Hod is Aaron, his brother. Now, the reason why I said it's kind of a hidden one is because Aaron, in the Bible, it's kind of like Moses' sidekick, right? He's always by his side. He's kind of like a side character. But in fact, that is not the case at all. Netzach, Moses, is the Creator's representative from above. But Aaron is the Creator's representative from below. And that is super important and actually much more practical for our work. Hod is our practical implementation. So it's our representative, our rep from below. While Moses is the Creator's representative from above. Now, that means that it's much more practical for our work because it connects us from bottom up, from our independent desire to connect to the upper one. And that's why this quality of Hod, even though it's kind of concealed, and that's why also Aaron is like a sidekick. He's not really talked about too much. He's not like the hero of the story. He's a side character, but in fact, he's much more than what it seems. The reason why he's kind of concealed is because it's unwritten. It's entirely up to the created being to realize this quality, this Sefira, this illumination of Hod. And that's why it's not very dominant, because everything from Hod, it comes from us. It's our work. That's the quality of Hod. So Avraham is the quality of Chesed that comes from the upper one, and Aaron is also the quality of Chesed. So we said Avraham is here, Abraham, and we also said it's Chesed. And Aaron is also a quality of Chesed, but it's a quality of Chesed that comes from below up. That's Hod. So it's the quality of Chesed from below up. Okay. Now, the qualities of Netzach and Hod, of Moses and Aaron, they both need to reach equivalence. They both need to equalize. Moses pulls towards this connection, but the work of discovering adhesion to Moses is by us being in equivalence with the quality of Aaron. So the quality of Aaron is actually the correction of the vessel from below. And Moses is the fulfillment of the vessel from above. You could say Moses shows the correct form of work, and Aaron implements the correct form of work. Now, when does Aaron appear? When Pharaoh resembles the ego, when ego enters the picture. So then Aaron goes with Moses to talk to Pharaoh. So when the ego arises, and Moses wants to connect the upper and the lower ones, then Aaron represents all of the work from below up. So Hod is a really special and kind of misunderstood Sefira. Moving on to the 9th Sefira, we're getting there. The Sefira of Yesod. Here we are. Okay, Yesod. I don't know why it's with a J. It's Yesod. So Y is probably more accurate. Yeah, all of these names here in English, I didn't write them. I just got it off Wikipedia. So I wouldn't count on the spelling here. Gevura, I would write like this, for example, etc. So don't look too much into the English writings of these names. So what is Yesod? Yesod is also an awesome Sefira. Make it right a bit bigger. First of all, if we said this was Moses and this was Aaron, who is Yesod? Who knows? Who knows who Yesod is? If you know, then shout it out. You know? You don't know. Okay, hopefully you know. Not that it really matters. I just wanted a second to look at the questions. So Yesod is the quality of Joseph. That is Yesod. So Joseph, the little brother of the tribes, who was thrown into the pit. Why was he thrown into the pit? Because he was misunderstood. He said to his brothers, bow down before me. He wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about the quality of Yesod. Now Yesod, what it means, it basically means like a foundation. It also means like elementary, like an element. It also means nature. It also means, you could say, in a way, everything. Now, that's exactly what the quality of Yesod is. It's the connector of all of the Sefirot. That's Yesod. So, and this is a really important quality. Of all Sefirot. Of all the Sefirot above it, that is. Of all. We'll soon see how it connects to Malchut. It kind of does a service, you could say, to the Malchut. So it's the connector. It's the connector of all the Sefirot. Hold on. I see we have a spammer on YouTube. That's good. So it's the connector of all the Sefirot above. That's the quality of Yesod. Right? So it's a feeling, it's the recognition, it's the attainment of connection. What is connection? It's connection of qualities, of intentions, of thoughts, of us. You could say, if we're talking about practical work, Yesod represents our intention to build connection between each other all the time. So when we say, we've got to focus on connection, we've got to build connection, we're actually, you could say, kind of working with this quality of Yesod, but in fact, because it's the connector of all the Sefirot above, we're working with this entire structure, with the upper 9. I told you there are going to be a lot of numbers here, so this is called also Tet Rishonot, which means upper 9. We've had 9, we've had 5, we've had 4, we've had 6, we've had 10, we've had everything. So the Yesod is the connector of all of the upper 9 structure. It doesn't have its own quality, Yesod, and this is also what's special about it. It doesn't have any own quality, only the fact that it represents connection between everything. And it's not only the last Sefira of the upper 9, it's also the last Sefira of what we called Zeir Anpin, the small Partzuf. So Keter, Hochma, Bina, Zeir Anpin, and Malchut. So this is the final Sefira of the Partzuf of Zeir Anpin. It's a source for abundance. It's a source for life. It's a source for everything. This is the quality of Yesod. Okay. It also connects to Malchut, and hopefully now Malchut will kind of clarify. I'm already getting messages that we're over time, but I think it's still worthwhile putting in a few more minutes to finish this off. And moving on to the final, I've probably said it before, but this is the most important Sefira, because the Malchut is where everything can be connected. And that's why all of these are called Tet Rishonot. They're grouped in together, and this is called the Malchut. So Malchut, if we're talking about names, then this is represented by King David. That's the Sefira of Malchut. So we had Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, Yosef, Joseph, and now we have King David. So Malchut literally means kingship, king, or to rule. It also means crown, which is interesting because Keter is crown. So Malchut, Limloch, is the means to finally reach the Keter. I'll write it in English. Malchut. Okay, so Malchut connects all of the Sefirot together to reach equivalence with the upper force. Now it might sound a bit like Yesod at first, because I said Yesod is the connector of the upper Sefirot, but you can think of it like this. Yesod does a service to Malchut. Yesod takes all of the Sefirot, gathers them together, connects them, and then passes on all of that. You can also see the visual structure of it. Malchut is just connected to Yesod. It has no other connection, because the Malchut is already the final result. So the work on the Malchut, that is the ongoing work. It's basically work. Malchut is also called a black point. So Malchut, before its correction, is simply considered as this black void. That's the Malchut before its correction. So it's actually the darkest place, but it also has in it the potential to be the lightest place, to be what connects us to the upper nine, to the Keter. So, whatever I work here. So it connects all the Sefirot together. All upper nine. So it's done by Yesod. Yesod does, you could say, the work of connecting, but it basically brings it all to Malchut. The work on Malchut, it's based on recognizing the evil, that's the work of Malchut. That's what it's based on, meaning the recognition of the ego. And the result of this work, a true prayer. That's the result of the work of Malchut. Now, this true prayer is also called, you might have heard of it, the prayer of David, Tfilat David. Maybe now you understand why. What is this prayer? It's a prayer to be connected, and from this connection to raise our desire towards the upper one. So the Malchut in its prayer, it awakens all of the upper nine. Think of it like a baby that through crying, it can awaken the entire house, and not only the house, but the entire baby industry for creating pacifiers and nappies, or how you call them in American, and all baby clothing and all things for chewing toys. And all of this is activated by the cry of the baby. If the baby wouldn't be crying, then there would be no pacifier invented, and all kinds of games wouldn't be invented. But with the baby crying, it activates the entire system above. And that's similar to Malchut. With the true prayer of the Malchut, it results in awakening the entire system all the way up to Keter. So, before it's corrected, Malchut, like I mentioned before it's corrected, it's like a black point. It's the most corrupt quality. That's what it is. It's like it's completely not connected to anything. It's concealed. And the Yesod, which is the quality, like I said before, which is above the Malchut, it passes on to Malchut the quality of bestowal. So if Malchut, in its essence, is complete reception, black hole, ego, with a connection to Yesod, where it passes on to Malchut all of the complete structure of the upper nine, of the relations of reception and bestowal in their connected way, then with the integration of these two things, Malchut can include everything in it, and it can realize the thought and purpose of creation. So Malchut includes in it all of the Sefirot, and because of that, it works directly with all of the 9 Sefirot, and it works directly with the Creator. So that was the Sefira of Malchut. Okay, so those were 10 Sefirot. Should we do a recap? We'll do a really, really, really short recap. Okay. Are we still going? I don't even know. Is the session still on? I haven't looked at the screen in a while. Okay. Yes. It's still going. All right. I thought I lost you guys already. So, let's see. Upper 3, 2-minute recap. 10 Sefirot, upper 3, not much for us to do here. These are the Gar, the Gimel Rishonot, the Rosh of the Partzuf, Keter, Hochma, Bina. In it, they include the purpose of creation, the thought of creation, and the correction of creation, but they all include it in potential. These are the Gar, the upper 3, the Rosh of the Partzuf. Next, we have Chagat, which is the fathers, we said. Fathers, and these 3 guys are the sons. These also are together their bestowal, and these together are reception. Each of these 3 has a complete structure in it. This represents a quality of greatness, and this represents a quality of smallness. What else can I tell you? I'll probably tell you the most practical thing. We had kind of a pretty, you could say, brainy session, because we covered a lot in this session, which is great. I'm happy we did. But in fact, the real implementation of all of this isn't through your intellect. If you kind of got a little bit about what the Sefirot are about, they're all about connecting qualities. What qualities? Only 2. Reception and bestowal. That's it. And all of these Sefirot are different parts of the process, different parts of stages of connecting and different roles. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's connecting the will to receive with bestowal. And in order to attain this structure, to attain the 10 Sefirot, then you won't do that by memorizing this entire session. You will do that by trying to implement it. And how can you implement these 10 Sefirot, the building of it? Well, we've built an environment that is tailored for implementation. That environment is KabU. I'm going to take 3 minutes to tell you about KabU, which is our online learning center for Kabbalah and the science of connection. And inside of KabU, we've tried, and I think succeeded, from 20 years of experience, from having over or close to 500,000 English-speaking students. If we're talking about other languages, it's in millions, but only in English, close to 500,000 students that have studied, that have taken courses, and that have given us the experience to build the environment that will enable you to not only intellectualize these qualities, Keter, Hochma, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Malchut, Tiferet, David, etc., but to actually start feeling what these qualities really are. So you can do that inside of KabU. I'm sure we have many of our students who are watching now are from KabU. Say hi, say you're from KabU if you want, just so we can get a feel. And we're actually, guys, we're going to continue to our KabU session in about 3 minutes when we're done. So we're going to continue to our KabU Zoom session where you can ask anything that you want. And if you're just wondering how you can join KabU, then I'm going to tell you in a second, but just let me take 2 minutes to tell you what's in KabU, how much it costs, and how you can join. So inside of KabU, you'll find VOD courses, you'll find structured learning paths, which will take you one step after the other towards advancing and understanding everything we talked about now, and not only that, but how to implement it. You'll find weekly exclusive online live events with senior KabU instructors. We're going to have one right now after this session. We're moving on to Zoom. We have student forums there. You can ask anything you want. We have a bonus for an annual subscription if you'd like to take it and join KabU. All of this doesn't cost $3,000. It's valued at probably a lot more than that, I would say. Just compare it to, similar products online. But all it costs is $19 a month. You get everything, full access to all of KabU, everything in it, the people, the instructors, the courses, the content, the live sessions, the materials, everything. $19 a month. You want to pay annually, $119 a year, under 10 bucks a month. So if you want to actually apply, today you got a lot of theory, understanding, I hope, clarity about 10 Sefirot. I hope you found it valuable, and that's yours. If you want to know how to implement it, how to discover these qualities within you, how to build that device, how to connect between Malchut to the upper nine, if you want to know the practical implementation of it, then join KabU. You can join 14 days for free. Don't pay anything. You don't like it, cancel before the trial ends. You will not get charged. Not many people cancel, I can tell you that. But those who do, no questions asked. That's up to you. And that's it for today. So we covered the structure of the 10 Sefirot. I hope you found value in it. If you did, then like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell whoever you want. As long as we spread this wisdom, this amazing light to everyone that wants to hear it. That's it, no more and no less. I'm Gil Shir. This was Kabbalah Explained Simply. And today we spoke about the tree of life and the structure of the 10 Sefirot. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.